Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. This episode of the Grandpa Channel is brought to you by Hires Big H, home of wonderful hamburgers, French fries, onion rings, the magical and medicinal, so I say, root beer freeze. Head to Hires and treat yourself like the legend that you are. Now back to the channel. Hello and welcome to the Grandpa Channel. This is Rivers. I have a great guest that I want to talk to today about being a grandfather and being a father. He's also my neighbor of over 30 years, and he and Fran are the parents of 3 boys and 7 grandchildren, and I can attest to the fact that he is a wonderful father and grandfather. Gary, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and raised one of 3 sons, the youngest of 3 sons, and I have 3 sons. I have experience of knowing both of my grandfathers. One paternal grandfather, Gary Lapin, settled in Pueblo, Colorado.
Where did he come from?
Russia in the early 1900s.
Wow.
And was a peddler and then opened up a furniture store. My maternal grandfather, Jacob Siegelbaum, was born in Poland and came also in the early 1900s. And he was a tailor, and I had a much closer relationship with him because we lived in Denver. We spent a lot of time with my grandparents in Denver. A traditional Jewish Sabbath on Friday night, we would eat almost every Friday night at my grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I was 6 and 7 years old, I would always have to spend the night with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend many of Friday nights with my grandmother and grandfather.
What kind of memories do you have of your maternal grandfather?
Really sweet memories. He was in the American Legion, and he was a veteran. And so on Veterans Day, when Denver had a big parade, he always wore his uniform, and he would march in the parade, and we would always go down to the Denver Civic Center and kind of watch him come by.
Was he a veteran of World War II?
No, World War I.
And
Yeah.
did he serve overseas?
No, I don't think so. I actually have a picture. He was in the infantry. A cute story about him was that he was very religious and used to, as Jews are asked to do, to pray in the morning. And they pray with a little headpiece called a tefillin on your arm and your head, and it takes about 45 minutes. And when he was in the army, he would just stroll around, and he was late to revelry. He always told stories, hoping this one is true, that they wondered where Jake was, and somebody spotted him with this leather strap around his neck and thought he was hanging himself. So that's the story that he told.
Great story.
Yeah.
Have you told your boys that?
Yeah, there's a well-known story. He was a tailor, and he was in southeast Denver, and he was known as Jake the Tailor. And back then, when wealthy people could afford to have custom-made suits made, they would go to him and make custom-made suits, and he was a tailor.
So what kind of personality did he have? Was he funny, or was he a signer?
No, he was, I would say, a little bit on the funny side, and I think there were some made-up stories from the Bible and stuff that he relate. And what I kind of remember about him is he never wore a watch, never, I don't think, had a wallet. I'm not even sure he had a driver's license. And every day he would come home with cash receipts in an envelope in his pocket, and he would just hand the envelope to my grandmother.
Really?
But back then, I don't know about...
Maybe not all that.
Yeah. So what I do remember, and you might have a similar thing with grandparents, never bought a birthday card, never bought a present, never gave me a kiss. It was very warm, but they weren't huggy people back then.
I can identify with that. Did he ever say, I love you or anything like that?
No, I don't think he ever used those words with any of us. He was just a warm, kind of wonderful grandfather and of the time.
Grandmother was a Danish immigrant And that just wasn't her style, to tell a grandchild, I love you. And I never felt bad about that because I just knew that she did. But I didn't really care if I heard those words in particular.
Correct.
Yeah. So now, what kind of a marriage did your grandparents have?
They had a wonderful marriage. They were married over 50 years. They actually had a golden wedding anniversary when I was about 15. I had to get a date and ask a girl to this formal dinner. But they had a wonderful marriage. I never saw him get mad or angry. Happy wife, happy life. So I think that grandma kind of did what she did. And my grandmother learned to drive when she was about 60.
No way.
Yeah. And she was a homemaker. Again, when I was young, and she used to go bowling, and I was with her in the summer. I would go bowling with her and a bunch of her elderly ladies and enjoy the afternoon. So again, a good memory of my grandmother.
Was your grandmother a good cook?
Yeah, she was a pretty good cook.
Uh-huh. What were her specialties?
Well, again, traditional Friday nights, Sabbath dinners. I would say 90% of the time we had a chicken dinner. Chicken and homemade chopped liver, a challah, Friday night of bread.
Uh-huh.
And my grandfather always said the prayer, the Kiddush prayer, Friday nights. Yeah.
Now, did the the religiosity that your grandparents have, did it get passed down to your dad?
Yeah, so my grandmother, I should say my grandmother had a kosher house. So my grandmother grew up in a kosher household, keeping kosher, and we kept kosher. And now my wife and I keep kosher.
So tell us a little bit about kosher kitchens.
Well, kosher really is about separating milk and meat.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says not to drink the milk of the mother. So in Judaism, the interpretation was that you shouldn't have a cheeseburger. Okay.
I have a hard time, but go off there.
Well, nowadays you have imitation cheese.
That's true. You do.
I went to a restaurant here called Sweet Hazel and had a veggie bacon cheeseburger. It's okay.
You're okay.
Right
You're
there.
good to go.
But keeping kosher is one of the things that is not hard to do, but separating dishes and separating milk and meat. Mm-hmm. And eating things that are meat that are marked kosher.
Yeah. Tell me about your dad.
My dad in World War II, he was in the Navy in Hawaii. He was a parachute rigger, and he fell off an airplane. Somebody moved the ladder, broken arm, came home in the 40s, and actually got sent back. And he ended up, because he grew up in the furniture business with his father, he opened up a furniture store in East Colfax near the Capitol in Denver. Mm. And he was a salesman, and I'm a salesman. Mm. And Jesse, my son Jesse, is also a salesman.
And then how did you meet Fran?
I was out one night with some friends at a local place, and walked in, and she was talking to somebody I knew, walked over, said hello, but didn't exchange numbers. So back then there were no cell phones, no computers, dating was totally different. I remembered where she lived. She lived at 188 South Clarkson. So on the way home one day, I drove by the mailboxes to get her name, and then you could go to a phone book. Oh. Remember phone books?
Vaguely, yeah. Of course.
We could look up somebody's number in the phone book and then call them.
Yeah.
And we went on a date, several dates, and dated for a while, and then got serious, and we got married in 1973.
Good. We got married in 79, so you're about 6 years ahead of me. So a couple of years ago, you had your 50th.
We did have our 50th. Our friend and I went on our honeymoon to Maui, and honeymoon there. And for our 50th, we met our son Jeremy and his family in the Big Island and celebrated our 50th in Hawaii.
Oh, wonderful. Now, tell me a little bit about your dad as it relates not only to you, but also to your boys. Was he heavily involved in that?
No, my father passed away before my oldest son was born.
Oh,
James.
Wow.
He passed away in 1976, 3 months before our first son was born. But he was an outgoing guy. He loved sports. He liked to gamble a little bit, or maybe too much. And then he liked to go to Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And back then they would send you a ticket if you were a gambler. To
pop it.
Please come. But he was a sports fan and loved to go to the baseball game. We were talking before about the number 7. So the Denver Bears were the farm team for the New York Yankees.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I became a big fan of the Yankees.
So have you been to a lot of games, Yankee games?
I've only been to one Yankee game. My oldest son James lives in the Bronx. And for Father's Day, before they tore down the old Yankee Stadium, we went to Father's Day game at Yankee Stadium.
Gary, how did you decide that did you want a grandparent or what?
Well, so I did have grandfathers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I had grandfathers around. And although, they weren't loving, they were that generation, just kind of, you developed a closeness just by being around them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really give any life lessons on how to be a grandfather. And my father didn't give me any lessons on how to be a grandfather.
You're on your own?
On your own, yeah. And I think, just having a loving family growing up, feeling loved and much more affectionate than my father and grandfather. So my kids, particularly my grandkids, get lots of kisses.
Is that a conscious decision on your behalf or just how things worked out?
Just how they worked out. I don't think that I have to think about it, but when the little grandkids come over and when they all were little and they would go to bed, you say your prayers, give them a good night kiss, which our fathers and grandfathers never did.
Really? It's interesting. Did Fran say, Gary, I want you to be more demonstrative?
No, and Fran, my wife Fran, is a teacher, an elementary teacher, and we have had our own preschool. She was always very close and warm and loving with young children.
Very warm person.
Yeah. But I think it just came natural. And I think my younger son, Jesse, is more like me. Out of the three sons, he's more of that huggy, kissing kind of.
My observation with Jeremy, when I worked with Jeremy, was the terrific dad. I was very impressed. And I think, just observing, think that they carried a lot of lessons from growing up here on. Tell me what do you like to do with your grandkids?
I love to play games with them. I love to go out and travel with them. With my youngest grandchildren in Hong Kong, Hawaii, several trips to California, Disneyland, SeaWorld. So it's fun to travel with your grandkids and particularly we were very fortunate that our daughter-in-laws and sons would just send them to us for the summer and we could be one-on-one and not have that parent oversight.
That lends for wonderful opportunities to get close to the grandkids. You guys are Jewish, and is it a challenge, or how do you share your faith and your tradition with your grandkids?
Well, as you're probably aware, Judaism has lots of holidays and lots of tradition.
I'm jealous of how many there are, by the way. Healthy jealous.
There are several 8-day holidays. It's interesting. Grandkids go to Megillah school, and Megillah observes and recognizes several of Jewish holidays, and the whole school is closed for the Jewish New Year and Yom Kippur and stuff. But I think it's just fortunate that we're able to spend, particularly when they were young, so much time celebrating Jewish holidays, Jewish New Year's. My son Jeremy, you mentioned the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. A very important tradition is the shofar-blowing, and he is the shofar blower.
Is he really?
Yeah. And we went to Israel. We went shopping for a shofar, which is a big ram's horn.
Yeah.
In the old days, they were small, and nowadays they're
pretty big.
Pretty big. And we found one that had a beautiful tone, and he blows it in front of the whole community.
Now, can you never use it other than on?
No, you can use it anytime.
I'll have to ask him.
He went down to the LDS Center, not the LDS,
the conference center.
Conference, and there was a interfaith Jewish holiday a few weeks ago. And a friend of ours asked him to blow the shofar.
Oh, very cool. Now, tell us a little bit about James. And correct me if I'm wrong, they lead an oriented forum.
So he and his wife, you would call them modern Orthodox. Modern Orthodox. The ultra-Orthodox might not have TVs or cell phones and be in the internet. So modern Orthodox is not so strict, but they do seat separately in the synagogue.
Men and women?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The explanation has been get distracted.
We do.
So he loves to study Judaism, and he is very active in his synagogue. The key for him is on the Sabbath, you're not supposed to drive. So they live 2 blocks from their synagogue.
Oh, boy.
So they're able to observe that tradition. And many of his friends and stuff, maybe would walk a mile and Friday night in good weather to get to the synagogue instead of driving. But they keep kosher. They observe all the holidays. In Orthodoxy, you would not use your cell phone or the TV or lights during the Friday night to Saturday night. So,
what about when they come visit? How does that work out?
Well, fortunately, we have a kosher home, so eating is not a problem. He makes a conscious decision not to drive on.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do the Grandpa channel, and I'll bet you a milkshake, Gary, that you'll go home and you'll think about it. You'll go, oh yeah, there's some of these stories, because I think they're in us, and we just got to find a way to get them taken care of.
Yeah, I think what's interesting in talking to other friends, and probably likewise, that our grandparents didn't talk about the old country. There were no stories, particularly if they were involved in the Holocaust, which fortunately my family was out of Eastern Europe before the Holocaust happened. As I've talked to similar friends our age, that nobody talked about the old country.
It was a forbidden topic.
It was just something they wanted to forget. I mean, it was for most of them, it was a very hard life. They left very young on their own many times. And it's amazing, as we hear about immigrants today coming across the border, how difficult they're walking. Most of the immigrants came across on boats, of course, across the ocean, but you don't hear, much about it. And it's like talking about the Holocaust. A lot of people don't even know about really what happened there. Mm-hmm. So I think to keep those stories alive in Judaism is very important to hear what the 6 million Jews that died and what happened in the Holocaust. A lot of other people also died and were persecuted. But I think it's yet to be decided what the future will be for history for our grandkids.
My cute mom taught me a lot about the Holocaust. She had a very tender heart, and she had such a tender heart, towards the victims of the Holocaust. And then, of course, being neighbors with you and knowing other Jewish people and friends that I greatly admire.
Have you ever been to a Jewish service?
I have not. I'll have to change that, right?
I mean, we need to bring you. Particularly when there's a happy celebration. A happy celebration. Yeah. And one of the things I think that's different about Judaism, on the Sabbath, where there's a celebration, a holiday, particularly if there's a bar or bat mitzvah, a 13-year-old.
Oh, I have been to a bar mitzvah before. In fact, I think it was one of your.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of good food.
Okay. You got me on the good food.
And the food, yeah. I don't go to many other places.
Well, anyway, I think that I've really enjoyed talking to you, Gary, and you've been a wonderful neighbor, and I just, I love people who take being a dad and a grandpa really seriously. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you for asking me to join you.
My pleasure. Thank you. That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.